Welcome to the Mystic Feminine Fertility Podcast, a sacred container for heart-centered conversations about fertility, pregnancy, menstrual cycles, and divine feminine energy. My name is Annalise Yagyajoti, and I'm a fertility awareness educator, a holistic reproductive health practitioner, and a modern mystic. It is my absolute joy and pleasure to host these conversations and share them with you. Hello. Today I am here with my boyfriend Tony.
Hello.
We've been together for over 3 years, and we have been preventing pregnancy using cycle tracking. Tony, do you want to tell the people about yourself?
Yeah, Annalise is my longest term relationship I've ever had, and we've had a really good relationship. I come from a background of very no-nonsense Eastern medicine philosophy of my dad's a doctor, and when I learned about sex ed and stuff like that and preventing pregnancy, it's all from a very traditional American standpoint of condoms, birth control, make sure you don't get someone pregnant, that kind of deal. So learning about what cycle tracking is through Annalise has definitely opened my eyes to a different way of taking care of things, and I think it's the correct way because it gets away from some damaging things to the female body.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does. And when you say Eastern medicine...
Oh, my bad. I meant Western.
Oh, okay.
I just meant American medicine.
American medicine.
I was trying to make the difference.
So normally I start by asking my guests where they're at in their menstrual cycle. Since Tony does not have a menstrual cycle, Tony, where am I at in my menstrual cycle?
You are in the luteal phase, which I know because we've talked about different phases, and they kind of come up as jokes between us. Like I'm in a certain phase and expect certain stuff out of me. Mm-hmm. I know that you just got done being fertile, mm-hmm. and that because of that woohoo, we don't have to worry about nothing, which is dope. And I think the next thing, this is me just guessing. I'm guessing the next thing is your menstrual, so like you're gonna bleed. It's gonna be a period next.
Mm-hmm.
Nice, we did it.
Yep. So you mentioned 3 of the 4 major phases of the cycle. Mm-hmm. You mentioned the luteal phase where I'm at now. You mentioned before that ovulation and the menstrual phase after that.
Yeah.
Do you know what the 4th phase is? Or
so,
it's technically the 2nd phase? Mm-hmm.
Menstruation, ovulation, luteal. I do not know that phase.
So there's one in between menstruation and ovulation.
Okay.
It's called the follicular phase. And that's just where the follicles are growing, and it's that time... as the body's getting prepared to ovulate.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And so, in your own words, what do I do professionally?
What you do professionally is you are kind of a guide to how to understand your own body based on temperatures, mucus, just kind of like different notifiers of where your body's at in its cycle, and then understanding what you are currently doing with your body as someone who works with you. I think the main thing I see it as is like knowing when you're fertile, because that full week of being fertile, I mean, what is it? It's like 4 days or something that you're actually fertile, but then like you want to track it around those days too, so that it's extra safe.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And that's the main thing I see you doing. And then also when people are wanting to get pregnant, it's a good idea to know when you're fertile.
Absolutely, yeah, because like you said, it's not actually all cycle long that you can get pregnant. It's up to 6 days, mm-hmm. Maximum. When you're preventing pregnancy, there's more than 6 days that you are considering yourself fertile. But yeah, when you're trying to get pregnant, it's a different ball game because there really only are a handful of days.
Yeah.
And so, since I do this professionally, like we had this conversation pretty early on in our relationship about how I prevent pregnancy and how I'm not on hormonal birth control and how I have no plans to be on hormonal birth control. Do you remember what that conversation was like at all?
I remember, I don't remember too much of being panicked by it or anything, by like when you told me. I was more just like kind of figuring out like how do you watch it. The thing is, as a man, I've always come into relationships being like it's kind of my responsibility as equal to the woman's of if they're fertile or not. Like in terms of like don't even risk it. Like if someone's not on hormonal birth control, even then, even on hormonal birth control, it still is risky. So I'm like I've always been extra safe when starting a relationship in terms of like never anything close to like you just use condoms and be safe. Be extra safe. Don't ever mess around. And like I mean, yeah. So like when we first had that conversation, I remember just being like, okay, I gotta be careful. I gotta be careful and let's see what this girl's about. And that's what we did. We just started out very careful and kind of felt each other out in terms of like your philosophy on birth control.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Had you ever been with anyone who wasn't on hormonal birth control, who was cycle tracking or preventing pregnancy in any way other than birth control?
No, I mean I've dealt with women on the implant
mm-hmm.
and then the pills, and I know for a fact one of the relationships I was in where she was on using birth control pills, I saw her struggle with taking them every day and missing and then throwing a bunch of extra pills in her body just for no reason and stuff like that. So like I was already familiar with that like chemical birth controls are only effective as the person using them.
Yeah.
And then the implants have their own issues.
Yeah.
And so that's what I've dealt with mostly. I never dealt with someone who actually cared enough to look at the schedule of their own body and figure it out. Like I never, yeah. No one. It's a very niche topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. People don't do it, and I think if more people knew about it, they'd want to do it.
I think so too. Was there a part of you that was ever scared? Like, oh no, this hippie chick is just trying to trap me, or like anything like that?
No, I mean, definitely no. I was never worried about that. Like I said, I've always come from the point of like personal responsibility over everything, so I was always watching what I was doing. I was never worried about losing control of it. Well, I mean, of course, there's times where you get worried, but I know with you, I was old enough and wise enough to be like, you gotta watch this girl. She's a little bit wild. But I mean, it worked out. Once I learned your science of it, I really do believe in it.
So, do you think that 3 years in, is this a reliable method of birth control?
Absolutely, it's definitely. I mean, we've been on top of it, and it's really just it feels like a complete understanding of what you're doing in your body, and when you are not fully sure, we just are extra cautious. It's not that big of a deal.
When in doubt, consider yourself fertile. That's one of the main teachings of cycle tracking. If you're not confident, consider yourself fertile.
Yeah, and I think even it sounds crazy to only say that you can be fertile for 6 days. I mean, how bad is it to have a couple extra days on each end of that 6 days? Like if you like worst case scenario, it's like 12 days. You gotta be careful, and it's not that big of a deal. And even when you're in that phase of like a few days of like I don't know, like you can still mess with like condoms and stuff. You just gotta be extra careful. Just don't trust it. What's the point?
Yeah,
I think it's too much.
The fertile phase really is a time when if you're trying to prevent pregnancy, that you can get creative with your sexual expression and intimacy. Like it just challenges you to switch from this penetration centric view of intercourse and intimacy, because there really are so many things that you can do that aren't just like the penis goes in the vagina. And so like we talked about, if penetrative sex is a big part of your love life and your intimacy, there's condoms, there's diaphragms, cervical caps, there's different barrier options like that. And then there's a whole world of non-penetrative sex and intercourse and intimacy and things that you can be doing.
There's plenty of research opportunities on the internet. There's anything you need to know. There's so many ways people can get it done.
And it challenges, I think, couples, and in our relationship too, really communicate, not only about, where am I at in the cycle and am I fertile or not, but also like, what do I really want? What is my intention with intimacy? Like, do I want to feel close to you? Am I looking for orgasm? Am I, is it physical release, emotional release? Like, do I want to do something creative or playful? Like, there really is a large spectrum of things, and it's cycle tracking, and our relationship has been an incredible place for me to dive into these ideas of what actually am I looking for, and unwire and rewrite my beliefs around sex and relationships and what a healthy relationship needs. What is my responsibility as the woman in the relationship? Is it to be sexually available 24/7? No. But that's like, that is a belief that I believe a lot of women hold, and I've held.
Yeah.
So I think cycle tracking, it disrupts that a little bit, and that's why some people are uncomfortable with it. So, Tony, if they don't know what we're talking about with cycle tracking, let's say that someone's listening to this episode with their male partner, and their male partner is a little bit like confused or hesitant. How would you describe what we do to know when we're fertile and when we're not?
Oh, well, the actual act of knowing, I think you need to, it has to come from the woman, of like understanding where her body's at. Like, you have to do the temperature tracking pretty much for a month, right? Like, you have to start by doing a full month of like seeing how your body actually goes through the motions. You can't just start thinking that you're not fertile. I think you need to kind of chart out your phases for that beginning and figure out where you're really at, and like, as the longer you do it, the more you're going to understand your body and the consistency of it, of where you're at and how different windows open and close. But as a guy, I mean, you kind of have to rely on understanding where your woman's at.
Yeah.
Like, she'll tell you, like with me and you, it was always like, you were so on top of it that I really got an understanding just from watching you work it. And then after seeing a few months of it, I fully just trusted in what you were telling me, and I got to kind of figure out the timings of it myself. So like, I knew, like, when you told me, oh, it's getting a little sketchy, I would know, like, oh, okay, so probably in the next week or so we need to be careful. And then there'd be a couple weeks of like, woo, fun times, and then obviously the period is everything every dude knows about. Ladies on their period, and hey, she's not fertile, but at the same time, or hey, she's not pregnant. Hell yeah, sweet. But then also, it's kind of a reset on the clock. It's like, okay, we got where she's on her period, she's gonna be off of it. Now we got like reset the cycle. We got another month of just like the same cycle. It's not that crazy.
Yeah. The vocabulary that we use is, I'm safe, or it's I'm moving into that fertile window, or I'm not sure. I'm definitely fertile. And then there's like I think the fertile window's closed, but let's give it another day or two just to confirm.
Absolutely.
And then I'm safe again.
Yep, and that's so easy. As a guy like me, I keep it simple. That's always worked for me.
And that's what's worked in our dynamic, where I, track and I tell him where I'm at. But there are different ways for the male partner to be involved if he wants to. Like he is involved, and he helps me with my thermometers in the morning, and reminds me to put them by my bed at night, and checks in. But they're like, if you wanted to attend education sessions with your partner, you can. I have couples come to my sessions all the time. I've known couples that the male partner will, like, when the alarm goes off, he'll grab the thermometer and put it in her mouth or vagina, wherever they're taking the temperature, and then he'll write it down.
That's what was making me laugh, is the idea of taking samples and like being a scientist about it.
Yeah, he's not really going to be doing
I'm not gonna be doing
the cervical mucus checks.
No, I'm good.
But you could.
I could, but I don't need to.
I do often. If I find some like really nice cervical mucus, it's not totally uncommon for me to run out of the bathroom and be like, Tony, look at this.
Yes, I have seen it before, and it's nothing to be grossed out about. I will say that. Like, I think dudes get a little bit scared about women's stuff, because it is just different. You guys are kind of like, compared to us, you guys are a little bit like aliens. Of like, there's like all this.
You are an alien too, sir.
Yeah, maybe to you guys, but I don't know. I look at it like this is beyond me. You have a whole garden that
You
you're
have
tending to.
fluids and gardens and, sperm developing in the epididymis and traveling through the vas deferens, and there's prostate fluid and...
See, I've never broken down the sample under a microscope, so I don't know what you're...
Your sample or my sample?
My sample. I've seen you do this, and I'm like, wow, that's something.
But you've had semen, like, on hands or on my body or on towels. Like, you've seen it.
Very true.
Semen's very different than cervical mucus, but, like, if we're talking about fluids, we've all got fluids. But I agree with you. There is a lot of mystery around the female body, and
it's less educational in the classic system of like, because I definitely like, I went to sex ed as a kid. I got to see the whole system of like ovaries, tubes, uterus, vagina, and like I kind of get like, this right here. We definitely got that in sex ed, but if you would have asked me before I met you about cervical mucus, I would have been like, what?
I mean, most women don't know about it.
Yeah, I would have had to put it together that cervix and mucus. I was like, oh, goop. Got it. Yeah.
I didn't know what it was until I really started looking into pregnancy prevention when I was like 21, when I didn't want to be on hormonal birth control anymore. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what is this?
But it was funny how, like, when I started talking to you about it and you told me how it's an indicator of where you're at in your cycle, it makes so much sense. Mm-hmm. It's just straightforward.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so, in terms of cycle tracking, cervical mucus helps us to open up the fertile window, to know when the fertile window is approaching. And then we use temperature to help us close the fertile window to confirm that ovulation has happened. Were there any misconceptions that you had about cycle tracking or about menstrual cycles when we first started dating that you have now learned are false?
I mean, for me, learning about the window of fertility made so much more sense to me. For some reason, like, again, before I met you, like, I thought that women were fertile when they were not on their period, straight up. Like, I thought it was just a mystery. You never know when it was going to happen. So, like, with past relationships, I've always had to just kind of be, like, always worried about it. Mm-hmm. And, like, once you kind of explain to me how the cycles of your body works, it makes way more sense. That you have these periods of time where you're not bleeding, but you're also not fertile. It's like in the meantime, because I mean, most things in nature and in your body kind of operate on cycles, and they, like, I mean, the seasons. It's same thing with the human body. So learning that through you, I really kind of got a different understanding of how this is just part of nature, and humans trying to disrupt nature with chemicals is not the best idea.
Mm-hmm. What do you think the benefits are to me not being on hormonal birth control?
I think you're honestly better tracked. Like, being, like, when you're on hormonal birth control, you don't really have an understanding of where your body's at. I've been with women who have been on birth control, missed their period, or had a really delayed period, and then you're kind of like in this period of like, oh my god, are you pregnant? Like, what the hell? But like with you know your period down to like a few days. And I mean, as a guy, again, seeing women go through their cycles, I've been like, I've understood that, like, oh, she's getting a little bit grumpy, she might be on her period, but hey, I don't, nothing about, it's part of the cycle again, but like, you're on top of it, like, you know, within a few days, before I even see any kind of emotional changes or anything, like, you are on top of it.
Yeah, I mean, tracking gives you so much information. There's not this mystery. So even if my bleed is gonna come a week, 2 weeks, a month later than I would have expected it to, I know, because I'm tracking.
Yeah.
Because I'm tracking ovulation, and I understand the science of the menstrual cycle.
And you understand the cycles of your body, so like you treat your whole life differently based on that, which I think is honestly I wish more women would do it, because like you guys need to you need to go along with the flow of your body. Can't push through certain things, and like chemical birth control, I'm sure makes you just do all sorts of weird things because your body's not in sync with what you're actually doing.
Yeah, I mean, hormonal birth control attempts to put the body in a static hormonal state by stopping ovulation, by thickening cervical mucus and creating like a mucus plug or an infertile environment, or making it so that nothing can implant in the endometrium.
Yeah, leads to bodily confusion.
Yeah, the body can get confused, and truly ovulation is really healthy. It's supportive for your body's heart, breast, brain health. Each ovulation is this way to support the body.
That's another thing too. Yeah, hormonally, I think you really do need that natural cycle going through you, because women's your bodies, they are miracles and need the hormone balance in check. Like,
and the menstrual cycle too. It's, Lisa Hendrickson Jack calls it the fifth vital sign. It gives us so much information about what is going on deeper in our bodies. Like it gives us this hormone health check. Like this cycle, I had a really short luteal phase. Like I'm expecting to bleed within the next few days, and I only ovulated a few days ago. The luteal phase is supposed to be between 10 to 14 days. And so I know that this has been a really stressful cycle, and that I haven't been doing all of the things that I might need to be doing to support myself in that level of stress. And I'm seeing it in the cycle. And it's a reminder to really take care of myself and to prioritize the things that I know support my body. Moving, eating right, and having my meditation practice, my yoga practice, my spiritual practices, my friendships, and a lot of breath work. There's a lot of things that I know support me that I just haven't been doing this cycle because it's been really stressful. So the cycle gives me really key information, or if I add in supplements, or if I'm taking a different medication, or all these things. Like the cycle is just this health check of what's going on. When I studied at Justice, they called it the canary in the coal mine. They're like, before something bigger happens, you're going to see these shifts in your menstrual cycle. Like it's this warning sign of like, hey, something's going on. You can deal with it now in, holistic, more gentle ways, or you can, wait until it's a huge problem and deal with it then in a more dramatic fashion. Yeah, I've used hormonal birth control. I've had IUDs and I've used the pill, and it just was not for me. So I'm very grateful for finding cycle tracking and, the shifts that it's had in my life. But one of the fears that I definitely had, and, something I've had to navigate in relationships, was this conversation with partners of like, hey, this is what I do. And people being like, what the heck? There's no way that works. You're crazy.
Yeah, that's for sure. I could see some people being like that.
So I've always appreciated your openness. Like there was definitely like, an education period where I was like, this is what I'm doing and this is why I'm doing it. But you've always been really receptive, really open.
I'm a believer in the science.
And a believer in me feeling good.
Oh yeah, for sure. That too. Yeah, and I've seen the negatives of birth control many times. So I've seen like with both the implant and the chemical. I've seen all sorts of things go wrong. And I think being more natural and being your natural cycles, understanding your body is just huge to being a whole person.
Yeah. Can you think of any challenges that we've had in this method?
We've definitely had challenges in terms of like that period of time where things are kind of sketchy. Like I feel like every now and then we'll get a little bit shut down from just like okay, we're off limits, like don't do it. And then we really just have to like we've done it multiple times, like we just talk through it and work it out. But there's definitely been times where I've seen both you and me kind of being like, well, we want to do something. Yeah. And like I know like for you, like I've seen you be upset. The funny thing is like when a woman's ovulating, it's usually the time that they want it the most, and it's like Yeah, that's the worst time. It's like, I'm sorry, but we can't. We gotta work around it, and like, that's just what it is. That's probably the biggest difficulty.
Yeah.
And when you think about it in the big scheme of things, it's really nothing. I mean, 3 out of 4 weeks of the month, you can do whatever you want. So whatever. We'll catch up on that later. Write it down in a book.
Yeah, there is. Like that mismatch, like oftentimes around ovulation is the time of highest libido. And so navigating that, it definitely takes communication and creativity and an openness.
And I know, like, me as a younger man would have been probably even more stressed about it. Now that I'm older, I like my own body's hormonal levels have kind of evened out. Like I am at a consistent level of just like, we're good, and like my brain isn't completely thrown off by like I need booty constantly because I'm 20 years old and I'm jacked out of my mind of crazy testosterone. But right now, we're good. We're adults. We can do this.
How has dating and living with someone who tracks in this way and really supports her hormonal health impacted you and your health?
It's made me more conscious of what goes into my body when it comes to chemicals. I think just like kind of seeing how you operate and how you have pulled yourself away from traditional means of like using hormonal birth control, and like the education you put yourself through to learn more about this has made me more conscious of stuff in general with chemicals. Like the kind of meme going around right now is Red 40. And like Red 40 really is terrible for you, and it's banned in so many countries. And I consider not hormonal birth control on the same level as Red 40 because it obviously does a certain thing and doctors are actually tracking it. But the fact that hormonal birth control is now found in the water supply because so much birth control has just leaked into plumbing and stuff like that, it's pretty nuts. And like I think by dating you and watching how conscious you are of it, I think it's something that people need to be more conscious of in general. It's just why not get back to nature?
Yeah, he's talking about these instances where, you know, around cities where a lot of women live and where they're using hormonal birth control and they're using the bathroom, then they go into the sewage systems and the oceans nearby, and they're finding traces of these synthetic hormones from the hormonal birth control, and it's having impacts on the wildlife.
Yeah, there's memes about it. You can find
Yeah,
all over.
it's a real thing.
But honestly, I already
There's also science to it. It's not just memes.
No, it's not. It is definitely not just memes, and it's like it's been something since people started discovering fertilizer in the groundwater, or motor oil. They used to bury motor oil in gravel little pits, and then next thing they know, they're like, oh wait, there's oil in our water supply.
Yeah.
So yeah, anything that's turned into a hormonal pill or something like that is gonna leak into the water eventually.
And beyond not taking hormonal birth control, I feel like most of the people who are drawn to natural cycle tracking are drawn to a more holistic lifestyle. They normally take a large handful of supplements in the morning, are mindful of where they shop and what foods and cleaning products.
Yes.
Like I make a lot of cleaning products. We use some environmentally friendly ones.
Yeah.
If we buy meat, it's organic, pasture raised.
That's a good.
Lots of veggies, lots of supplements.
That is definitely a good, like, not so much, not fully tied to your cycle tracking and stuff like that, but yeah, personality type of you being a California girl coming over to the East Coast where I'm from Florida, which there is no, like, organics are kind of a joke in Florida. Like, they're starting to get popular now with, like, there's a health community there. But when I was growing up, like, and I also came from a Midwestern household where we ate, like, Post cereal and General Mills and all that's the standard stuff. But, like, seeing how you treat food and organics and then supplements, too. I've never, like, we do not do supplements in my household. My dad, again, medical doctor, is one to tell you that supplements they're not great. They're not, who cares? Like, he's like, take a General multivitamin and some fish oil and you're good. And then, like,
those are supplements.
Yeah, they are. But that's like, it's different than taking, like, ashwagandha
and
like
vitamin
stuff.
D.
Yeah, vitamin D, and just being on top
Beef
of
liver pills.
magnesium. Yeah, the whole beef liver thing too. Yeah, that was all brand new to me, and I think I just put it down to like I can embrace your lifestyle. It was definitely different, but I enjoy it. It's fun.
Do you think dating me and living with me has made you healthier in any way?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I watch what I eat in terms of like. There's some things are so subtle. I think that's what I've noticed by the differences from dating you and like, just like kind of doing traditional type of lifestyle, American lifestyle, is that I just pay more attention to like organics versus non-organics and stuff like that. And I know I don't feel exactly that different from them, but I know that the higher quality of food you're getting in you does make you just live longer and better. There's so many things that are coming at us these days. So
yeah,
it's better to just be a little bit more conscious of it.
Yeah. And so what are some of the things that you do to support your hormonal health?
Things I do to support my hormonal health. I am always trying to get a good workout in, pretty much daily.
Fantastic for testosterone,
yeah,
yes.
Daily get a workout in.
Male and
Usually
female.
Going outside too, getting some sun. I am a pale person, but I still need to get some sun, because I know vitamin D is huge for hormone health and stuff like that. Sleep, proper amount of sleep, and I don't know, just monitoring how you feel. Like, I think you can kind of tell as a dude if you're feeling a little bit depressed, or if you're feeling a little bit groggy, crappy. You're probably losing a little bit of test. Like, test is huge with making you feel good, and like that's why these older guys who are getting back on TRT, testosterone, the replacement, they're just like, they're vibing. They're having a great time, and it's because they finally got their hormones checked in place. And if I start feeling slumpy, if I just start feeling gross, I know I need to go back to a more caveman lifestyle of eating beef and going outside.
Really, with male and female bodies, when you're feeling off, going back to basics is such a fantastic, at least first step. But we do it over and over again, where those basics being, how are you moving? How are you sleeping? How are you eating? Can you reduce stress? Like, those 4 pillars are huge.
Yep, for sure.
In the body. Do you have any messages that you want to send to any male partners of cycle trackers that are listening? Any thoughts, messages, or words of advice there?
Don't be afraid of it. Just keep it simple. Like, she might come at you with a lot of different words and wild cycles and stuff, but really it's as simple as like, watch for that fertile window, and then when you're around it, be careful, and then when you are not in any kind of danger, then have fun. Whatever. Who cares? It's gonna be a good time.
Woohoo!
Yeah, and also be cool with your lady's body. I mean, it is what it is. Like, women are their own type of creatures, and you just got to accept them for who they are. Their goop, their smells, their I'm just like, don't be afraid.
It's good advice. And at the end of the day, the goddess in your life is true. A blessing.
That's 1,000%. I would say, like, women are a blessing, and my lady treats me so right, and I love her so much. And part of this is her cycle tracking and understanding her body.
Any final thoughts or messages to anyone who's listening?
No.
Amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time,
You're
Tony,
welcome.
and putting yourself out there, helping to answer some questions.
Yeah, for sure.
And thank you for being such a fantastic partner in life and in cycle tracking, and I appreciate you so much.
You're so welcome. Love you.
I love you. Thanks for listening. And if you have questions for Tony, let me know. I'll ask him. I'll put it on social media. Let's do more questions for Tony. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode. If you enjoyed it, it would mean the absolute world to me if you'd share it with someone else that you think would like it, or leave a review. You can learn more about our guest by reading the notes below. And if you want to learn more about me, my one-on-one coaching, my memberships, or my online courses, you can learn more at mysticfemininefertility.com or Mystic Feminine Fertility on TikTok and Instagram. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.